Hello and welcome to ITBS Media. This is the beginning of our training on Linux. So I will title this Linux training program for cybersecurity beginners. So if you have ambition of going into cybersecurity, or you are in cybersecurity and you need extensive knowledge on Linux operations, or you want to cross, maybe you're making a career change and you're wondering, what do I need to know in cybersecurity? One operating system that you need to be very familiar with is the Linux, and we'll be starting a series in this training program. So this is the beginning. It might take us few weeks to run through what I have in plan to teach. And so let's roll into Linux. Let's introduce Linux and see what exactly we're talking about. If you're familiar with Windows environment, you have your laptop, and when you boot into your device, you see Windows logo comes up. That is showing you the operating system that runs on your device. And it is not only Windows that is out there. We have Windows, you have Mac OS, you have Linux, you have iOS, and so on like that. So, but this particular training program is focused on Linux, and we want to know exactly what it is. Why is it important for you to know if you have a mind of going into cybersecurity? So, like I said earlier, Linux is a software because it's an operating system. It's not just one of the applications you have. For example, you can have a client application that is designed for a specific purpose. Linux is not one of such applications. Linux is like Mac OS, like Windows, like if you have a Windows 10, Windows 11, similarly you have a Linux. So, and Linux provides a platform for interaction between your multiple applications you have on your device and the hardware itself, just like Windows operates. Your Windows creates the registry. Your Windows operating system manages your files. You know, you have a file explorer, you have some other, maybe like a task manager, device manager, and things like that embedded. All those embedded in a complete system that is called operating system. So in Linux environment, Linux is born from the Unix operating system, and Linux has unique ability and a strong feature, and because of that it is used in driving many devices. Talk of computers, personal computers, servers, smartphones, applications that are used in industries and in business operations. You have your routers, security tools, and mention in transportation. You have a lot of applications that run on Linux. And if you're going into cybersecurity, it is imperative that you know how that kind of operating system is built, how it operates, the basic functionalities, and while you start using it, you get more knowledge, you get advanced in it, because even penetration testing, hacking runs mostly on Linux operating system. So it is important that you as a cybersecurity professional be familiar with Linux environment. Linux is open source. It means you can take the source code and you can tweak it. You can change it to suit your specific need. So even major companies, major organizations that we interact with today run their operations on Linux. So that is just the first brief introduction. And next, let's look at what Linux is made of. The composition. Linux is made of kernel, shell, file system, and utilities. You need to know these basic ones to have a pictorial idea of how Linux operates or runs. So what is kernel? Because these are some of the terms you will come across in your journey. So kernel is that core program that interacts with hardware, and it is hard coded. Let me explain that. The program that runs, you know, you have your device, your physical device is physical, but then when you put your hand on your keyboard, you send a signal to the computer, and because your keyboard is connected to the motherboard is hard coded. There are programs that have been coded into the motherboard of your computer. You cannot change it. That's why it is hard coded. You cannot change it by maybe uninstalling it and installing it like you do the most client applications. This is what drives the hardware that you are holding. Your phone, your router, your computer, all these runs when they receive instruction, they receive command that are hard coded into the boards, the motherboards and other components that are installed, physically installed on those devices. So your kernel serves as a bridge between the applications that you can install at will and you can uninstall and the hardware. So that is about the kernel. I've told you it's hard coded and you cannot modify that. That's why it is the manufacturer's domain. That's why sometimes when you want to change some things, you'll be told, oh, you cannot change that. Let me give you an example. If you want to upgrade your system, your computer, to Windows 11 now, you'll be required to have minimum of 2.0 TPM TMP is TMP or TPM, Trusted Platform Module, TPM 2.0 version. Some of the latest, the earlier version, maybe some of the devices with earlier version runs on 1.2 version. So it is because you cannot change that. It is hard coded into the motherboard. That is why some devices will not be able to upgrade to Windows 11. So if it is hard coded, you as a user cannot change that. So that is an example. So the kernel is the part of Linux operating system that is hard coded by the manufacturer or by the developer into the system. You cannot change them. If you need to change, you might have to uninstall it and install a newer version that comes with that particular version you need. So that is that. Then the shell, that is the components, the command line interface that users use to interact with the system itself. You have the screen. If you load your Linux and you have your screen, for you to be able to type in, you need to have the terminal or the interface where you will interact with the application, the software that is hard coded to run that system. So that is the shell, and is popularly called terminal in Linux. In most cases, you can bring up your terminal by using Ctrl-Alt-T. For example, in Ubuntu, we'll get to different distributions now. Now let's move on to the next one. The next thing you should be familiar with is the file system. The file system is the component that organizes folders and files, and it also helps in how you are able to write data into files, you are able to organize the files into folders, and how you are able to save the files, how you are able to save the folder, and how you are able to access the data in the file when you need it. It is in control of the permission system. So who has the permission to access the data in the file? It is the function of the file system. So that is about the file system. The similar component in Microsoft Windows environment is your file explorer. In your file explorer, you can create a folder and you can save your file into that folder. So the file system of the Linux operating system work in the same manner. Now the utilities. The utilities is the combination of tools that are used in managing the system. So for example, if you first open your terminal, you want to know what are the default folders. All you need to do is type ls, standing for representing list, ls, and hit the enter button. Once you hit the return button, you should have the list of the default folders. And if you want to change from the folder you are in into another folder, you type cd, that is change directory. So moving from one directory to another directory, you type cd and you put the name of the directory you want to move to. So you have grep, cards, ssh, and many other tools that are pre-installed in the Linux operating system for users to be able to send commands, send instructions to the hard-coded programs in the kernel. So I think you can have it. You now have a picture of the Linux environment. And with that being said, we will, in our next video, we'll begin to try out some of these things we have mentioned. We'll begin to demonstrate. So we're moving on into the practical terms. But if along the line before the second video, if I remember any other thing that I need to mention, bearing in mind that this program, this particular video is an introductory one and is aimed at those who don't or who have not used Linux before, or who have seen Linux but have not known the components of Linux operating system, then this will be a very good example. So another thing that I think I should mention before I go is the fact that Linux has a large family. Large family in the sense that Linux has different distributions. Different distributions. When I say distributions, I mean different types of versions. So Linux is made for different type of purpose. We have the ones that are suitable for beginners, and you have the ones that are made for intermediate users, the ones that are made for advanced users. You can categorize it that way, and you can also categorize it as the ones that are good for general purpose, and the ones that are good for penetration testing, and the ones that are also very good when it comes to security operations. So we have, that's what is called Linux distribution or Linux distro. You will hear these terms. So we're going to be talking about Linux. We're going to be talking about different components, the terms that you will come across. So when you hear Linux distro, it refers to different distributions of Linux. Example of the distros we have are Ubuntu, CentOS. We have for security operations, that's I will mention two that are advanced, or three. One is Kali Linux for penetration testing, security operations, because it comes with bundle of applications, security applications for penetration testing, for incident response and management, for forensic operations. Also we have Parrot OS, Parrot operating system, similar to Kali Linux, with bundle of security tools for forensic penetration testing and other similar applications. And you also have Tails for anonymity. That's used mainly by maybe journalists and some other people who wants to hide their identity. So we look more into the various types of distros that are out there. You have Red Hat from Oracle. So let's just keep it as simple as that today. So please share the video, invite your friends to join the ITBS Media family, and remember to like the video. And if you have not subscribed, please do that. Thank you. I see you in the next video.